welcome to Lifeboat Channel. I'm Annie, and today we're here with Jack. Welcome, Jack.
Thank you.
So you're a cadet on board, right?
Yes, on board passenger ship, yes.
And what is your role? What does it entail? What do you have to do?
So as a cadet, I'm here as primarily to learn to shadow the officers on watch, and then also to work alongside the deck department and for the safety maintenance and the deck maintenance to learn about all the different aspects of the operations on board.
Okay. And how long is your contract for?
This contract will be my last contract. Is only 2 months long, but previously up to 4 months.
Okay. Then after your contract ends, what do you want to do? Where do you want to go?
When I finish this contract, I'll go back to my Maritime college and finish the license, finish the exams, and then hopefully get the license as the third officer. And then after that, then we'll decide.
What is the safety habit that you learned on board that you didn't have before?
So since coming on board, something that for me is a bit different is like just always observing, always looking for stuff. If before maybe you would walk past something and there could be a leak, some damage, something like this, you might walk past and think nothing of it. But since being on board, since doing stuff with the likes of fire risk inspectors and fire risk officers, or even with the safety officer on board, you walk past things and you notice more quickly, and then you realize that okay, we need to report, we need to let someone know, we need to fix, or we need to report to the maintenance, because it's better to do this than to wait until someone maybe could trip or someone could hit a sharp object or any issue. So it's better like this than to wait until there's a bigger problem.
So more observant.
More observant, yes, yeah.
If you heard an alarm right now, what is the first 3 things you would do? First actions that you take?
So first thing would be just to sort of stop and just listen to the alarm and hear what signal it's going to be. And then with most of the alarms, then once they give the first signal, then afterwards will be followed by an address of information. So for example, if it was a man overboard, they would do the man overboard signal, and then they would say which side, so you will know where to proceed. And then afterwards, then just proceed with whatever my duty would be for that emergency. At the moment now, as a cadet, I'm supernumerary, so just as additional. So probably in most cases, I would head to the bridge, and then if there's anything I can assist with, then just sort of stand by until someone needs me.
Okay, perfect.
So since I've been on board, I've been with the ABs and the deck department doing steel maintenance and maintenance of painting and service preparation, and then also with the safety ABs, the firemen on board, helping them with maintenance in lifeboats and with the lifeboat systems and the davits, painting, inspections, greasing, stuff like this. All the general maintenance of all the different parts of the ship. Also sometime with the carpenters on board, mainly fixing fire doors and learning how all of the different fire door systems work, because we have lots of different types on board. And if we're going around and we see an issue with one, it's important we sort of recognize what is wrong with it, as well as just noticing that there's a problem. So it's been good to go with the carpenters, and you learn a bit about each of the different types of systems that we have on board for the fire doors.
So talking about lifeboats, I know that you're on board with David. What is it that you do? What did you learn? What did you get to see?
So with David, we done part of the hydrostatic release, which was good to see the explanation behind that between the onload and the offload, and also with the videos from the Lifeboat channel, the cross-section videos where you can see inside the piece as it's working, because it's good that is explained when we do the normal training, but is even better when you kind of see why things are happening instead of just what's happening. Also, we done some parts about the accumulators for the winch and the brake release, and also the same with the cross section videos where we have the cutout where we can see inside what's actually happening inside these canisters and things. What your actions from the handle is actually doing inside the machinery. So it's good to sort of not only know what's happening, but also why it's happening and how it's happening as well, which has been something that I learned with David.
What skills do you want to master by the end of your contract?
For me, something that I really like is sort of traditional navigation. So using the stars, using the celestial navigation. This is something that is not used as commonly anymore, but is still a good skill to have, and something when I'm on watch, is something I like to practice. And it's something by the end, hopefully, to be proficient in, because I think it's important to kind of keep this skill, even if it's not maybe necessary or not as popular anymore. It's still a useful skill to have, and it's also quite interesting.
What officer role, are you watching close and thinking, I want to be able to do that?
For me, it would be when we're in maneuver, when we're coming in and out of port, actually doing the maneuver itself, handling the ship is something I really like. I would love to be in the position where I could be doing the maneuvers, doing the actual parking of the ship, essentially, is one of my favorite bits about boats in general, small boats, big ships, is the actual physical handling of the ship when you, not when you're in the sort of track pilot when you're at sea, but actually hands-on with the controls is one of my favorite parts. And seeing when the officers and the skills some of the officers and the captains have for maneuvering the ship in quite like challenging conditions is something I really like. I would like to be able to do.
And so, for example, like if you're going into port or you have to do maneuvers, what is it that you do? What is your role? Do you actually get to do something, or do you just have to observe?
It is a little bit of both. It depends on who I'm with and the type of a maneuver, but usually when I'm on the bridge, I'm helping either the co-nav or the administrator. So with the co-nav, it's more sort of shadowing just to see what it is that they're looking at and what it is that they're monitoring for the navigator who's focusing on the actual handling. So they're focusing on the weather, monitoring other traffic that's a bit further afield. And then with the administrator is assisting with alarm management. So if we have a fire detector, a smoke detector goes off, we get the alarm on the bridge, then we go to deal with this so it's not distracting from the maneuver. Also for any of the communications between elsewhere on the ship and the bridge, helping the administrator with this kind of stuff.
Okay. What is a small tip that you received from other crew you wish everyone knew from day one?
It was something I sort of noticed a lot of officers doing, is just write everything down or take photos of everything, because it's one thing you sort of think, okay, I'll remember that, but then when you then need to look at it later and then you're like, oh, was it this? You're not so sure. It's better, even if it's just a rough scribble, it's better to have some sort of note that you can look back on and be sure of what you're doing. For me, what I do a lot is to take photos, and then on the photo add like a caption of what it is or what it means, so that if I need to, I can look back later and I have the photo and also a description of what it means.
Okay. What do you wish you had access to on board that would make learning easier?
For me, Wi-Fi and being able to load the likes of videos and bigger documents. Obviously, this is different from ship to ship, but is something that, especially for studying and doing things for college tasks that I have to do as well, the Wi-Fi, to have Wi-Fi that was strong enough to just use for videos and stuff like this would be very good. Also, this is sort of another thing, is just to download as much as possible before coming on board. Was something when I done my first contract was something I sort of messed up on. And then when I went to go to study, I found out I was missing, should maybe only be some small information, but without it, then the rest of the stuff I've downloaded wasn't much use to me. So it's important to make sure everything is already downloaded before to come on board, because you don't know how reliable or how much access to internet you'll have. And also when you're using your internet, it's sort of like you don't want to waste it to download stuff that you could have downloaded already. It's better to use it for things in the moment.
When you think about emergencies, what do you think matters the most on the cruise part? Is it skill? Is it being calm? Is it maybe a mixture of both?
I think it's a mixture of both, because they need to have the skills and the knowledge to deal with the emergency, but they also need to be calm in order to focus on using their skills. And also is important in passenger ships as well. We need to remain calm to allow the guests to remain calm. If the guests in an emergency see the crew panicking, then they will start to panic. So it's important to keep everything calm, and then like this, hopefully the guests remain calm and they remain confident that we can deal with whatever the situation is. Because if we have panic, then more problems. So I think it's a mixture of both. They need skills and knowledge, but also to be remaining calm, which is why the drills are useful, because in the drills you're learning to use the skills as well, and not only watching a PowerPoint or a video about how to do it, then you do it hands-on, and then when it comes to it in a real emergency, it's like muscle memory.
So would you say that you prefer learning visually or actually doing it?
I think it's good visually, but also physically doing things. So it's good if you can watch something in a video or on a PowerPoint, for example, and then afterwards, when you've watched and you've been taught sort of the theoretical side, to actually go and do it practically, I think is important as well, because some things can be different to the video. And even, for example, with the likes of the lifeboats, when you're taught about the releasing of the brake, in the videos you see it release the brake, it's like, okay, it's easy. But then when you go, it's important to actually feel it physically, to know the difference in the pressures of when you don't want to just immediately lift the full brake and drop the whole lifeboat. It's sort of, you need to be more gradual. Something like this is hard to portray in a video, and is good for physical hands-on practice. You can kind of get used to how the equipment feels in real life.
If you could teach passengers one safety habit without scaring them, what would it be?
I think for passengers, something is important is just familiarization with the ship and with sort of how they should act in an emergency. Obviously, we do the drills and the passenger briefings for the safety, but for a lot of people, there's just something they have to do at the start of their cruise, and then for the next 10 days, 2 weeks, however long their cruise is, they kind of forget about it. I think it is important that sort of to get into their head that they need to be they should be familiar with where they have to go for their assembly station. Also other routes. Some people, they only go one route the same way every time. If they have an emergency, this way could be blocked. So I think it's important that everyone is sort of familiar with the ship, because you don't know what condition it will be in if we have an emergency on board. You might need to adapt what you previously were familiar with. So I think for the passengers, familiarization with the ship, I think, is very important.
Yeah, so my sister, she works on a cruise ship, and when I would go visit her, I would get lost all the time.
Yeah.
I don't know how you keep track of all the corridors and the stairs and everything. I would get lost all the time.
Yeah, even for the crew, when we first join on some of the ships, it takes a while to get used to everything. So for the passengers, for sure, it's difficult to familiarize, but I think it's important still to try.
So obviously this is not your first contract, but when you first stepped foot on board, what was the first thing that went through your mind? What did you think? What did you feel? What did you see?
The first thing was just the scale of everything. Obviously, with passenger ships, they're quite big. So was when I first kind of got up close to the ship, it was like you realize, wow, this is actually quite a huge like machine. Whereas if you look from a distance, you kind of you don't get a proper idea of it until you're on board and you realize that like you see the corridor going one way and you see the corridor going the other way. You can't see either end of it, and it's like, okay, this is big. Um, and then when you start to go after a while, start to do jobs with the safety officer, with different people doing the safety induction, stuff like this, and you realize how much equipment there is on board as well, especially with passenger ships. How much sort of firefighting equipment, life-saving equipment. For us, for example, we have 30 lifeboats. Is a huge amount of safety equipment purely for man-leading ship. Yeah. So is with this type of ship, especially, is just the scale everything is at was the first sort of thing that took me by surprise a little bit.
So what made you apply in the first place for this job? Was it a dream of yours? What made you decide that I want to work on a floating island in the middle of the sea?
For me, ever since I was a lot younger, I've always been obsessed with boats and the sea. With my family, we've had boats my whole life, different like speedboats and boats that we go a couple of weeks maybe on holiday, we would go on a little boat. And even when I was a teenager, then I've had my own boats, own sailing boats and speedboats. That has always been a big. So for me, it's always been an interest ever since I was a lot younger. The sea and boats, and I've always been around boats my whole life. I started working on tour boats and then also working on pilot boats and tugboats, and as a mooring man in my local port. And then it was sort of reached like a point where had sort of the options of what I wanted to do next, and there was either the cadetship or to get the license for the smaller boats to continue working up in the port. But I thought better to get the license for the officer of the watch, and then later on then I can go back to do the license also for the smaller boats, because with the officer of the watch you get the knowledge that you can go back and do this a lot more easily. So I think it's better to start here, and then if needs be I can also get the other licenses then, and once I decide what I want to do, which still trying to figure out, but I think will be definitely something to do with the sea for sure.
Okay, so for example, during an emergency, what is it that you do? What is your role? Do you go to participate or do you have to just observe?
On my contracts so far has been fairly lucky. We've not had anything major. Sometimes we've had medical disembarkations where it's been not so much an emergency of like a panic. Everything is a lot more slow. It was medically disembarking by boat, so it took a few hours of preparation to actually just get to the place that we were meeting the boat that was coming from shore. But it was very interesting to see how everything was set up. This happened on 2 different ships as well, so it was interesting to see the comparison of 2 different ships and 2 different areas of how this disembarkation process was working, and was good to sort of see. But as far as big emergencies like a fire or something like this, luckily, no, nothing yet. Hopefully not.
So obviously you do different kinds of training with the SOLAS and drill and all of that. What is the one part of training that you enjoyed the most?
For me, something I find really interesting is the firefighting. Even when doing the STCW courses ashore, before joining, the firefighting was my favorite one. I think is very interesting, and how not only like the physical fighting of the fire, but then also the managing from the bridge or from the staging area of managing the fire teams and managing how the fire will be attacked. I think is very interesting, because there's so much to it.
And so obviously you're on board to learn. Do you have any other classes you have to take? Do you have to go with a training officer? mandatory lessons they have to attend, parts of the course? What do you have to learn?
So for all of us, we have sort of regular mandatory training, whether it's like the normal drills we practice, but also, for example, for the bridge team, we have practices for steering failure, engine failure, stuff like this, where we will come together as the bridge team, and also sometimes also with other departments like the engine department and different ones, and we will kind of do theoretical walkthrough of what we do in these scenarios. Sometimes as well, we will simulate physically the incident, and it's good to sort of practice because you read all the checklists and you do the practices on the bridge, but when you do it as part of the bigger team and with the likes of the captain and the chief engineer, they're able to explain everything in a lot more detail. You get a very good understanding of what really we need to do in these scenarios.
How much of your training actually involves SOLAS, or do you not have to study it at all?
As part of our training, we're sort of we need to be familiar with SOLAS and the different chapters, the different requirements. When we're on board, we're also then looking at the sort of our own ship's policies as well. So sometimes the ship's policies can overtake the policies of like the minimum requirements by SOLAS. So it can be sometimes a little bit difficult to remember which one is the international requirement and which one is the ship requirement. But as a cadet, then eventually we will need to be familiar with all of these different parts of SOLAS. This will be something then once I finish on the ship and go back to the college, is something I need to then study a little bit more just to make sure I'm totally familiar. So for the safety switch and the limit switch, we have the limit switch on the top of the winch. When it's activated, then it's stopping the winch, basically so that the crane doesn't destroy itself. Because if there's no limit switch, the winch will just continue to run and can damage the equipment. With the limit switch is automatically cutting off when it knows that it's reaching the end of its reel. So the safety switch is this part here, which is basically so that when you have the big wheel for manually retrieving manually adjusting the winch, that is not going to be activated by the electronic motor. But one thing I learned from David was that when we're testing, we can't only do this because like this is not realistic. So we have to physically lift, and this system then is lifting the limit switch and is being held up once the wheel is in place, so that it's not going to fall back down and then allow the electric to restart. So it's important to test like this because we need to know that the limit switch is going to work at this height rather than up here if we test by hand. Because like this might work and like this could be not effective. So it's important we test in a realistic way.